What is the clearest case of living in denial you've ever seen? So my sister gets married, her husband's family are pretty heavy drinkers, and it's the full range of drinks. Beers whenever, mixed drinks, straight hard liquor like vodka, whatever is on hand, and plenty of it. 7 days a week and all day on weekends, holidays, etc. So her husband's brother, late 20s, hits it a lot harder than even the other people in his family. A full handle of vodka after work every day, kind of hard. 4 or 5 over a weekend, all by himself. So he gets sick, not feeling well, tired, etc. But just puts it down to getting older and maybe not handling his liquor like he used to, but doesn't cut back at all. Once he starts turning yellow, he gets to the doctor, who tells him his liver is shot. Full cirrhosis, there's nothing left of it, whatever. He tells the doc he doesn't know why. He doesn't drink any more than the people he knows. It's a mystery, but he'll stop entirely to get put on a list for a new liver. He obviously doesn't stop drinking, doesn't even cut back. Everyone knows it's the drinking and cirrhosis, but he and his family start calling it cancer. It's cancer, so the drinking has nothing to do with it. So he eventually ends up in the hospital full time because there's no liver for him yet, and his family starts sneaking vodka into the hospital so he can keep drinking. He left the hospital on a slab, and the family starts asking people for money for cancer walks, stuff like that. And not a one of them cut back the drinking at all. My friend has been talking to this man for 4.5 years. They've hung out maybe 5 times and they usually just hook up and he leaves. He only texts her at certain hours of the day because of his work schedule. He never plans dates for them, or when she does try to plan dates, he bails. I constantly ask her why she keeps talking to him and if she really believes they could be something more than once in a while, if even that, fuck buddies. And she said she just really likes him and wants to be with him. I wholeheartedly believe he has a whole wife and kids. Ex's mom moved to Vegas from Europe, went broke gambling over 10 or so years, practically homeless. Then she got injured on a casino escalator and was compensated more than fairly with a life-changing amount of money. Guess who went broke again? Pretty much exclusively at the same casino. This is fresh because my POS uncle just died. He was convicted for raping my cousins. There were photos and videos of the crime, nothing showing his face. My grandma maintained until her death that my uncle was innocent. She favored him over my dad, who was actually a halfway decent person. My cousins tried to tell her. She shoved one away and told her she was a sick little girl. They eventually told the teacher. My dad has dementia. My mom refused to acknowledge that it was a developing problem, because it was an inconvenience to their lifestyle. I confronted her because he needed to have his driver's license taken away because he was a danger on the road. My dad impulsively went out one day, bought a BMW without her present, and later drove it underneath a semi-truck. And shocker, that was when she realized he was unwell. I also had to find out through extended family about his accident because she didn't want to give us the satisfaction of being right all along. My mother, now deceased, refused to wear glasses because she hated how they looked on her. Instead, she insisted her eyesight was not that bad, and the fact we had to read menus to her at restaurants was just a cute quirk. Got a friend. He's in his 50s, makes next to minimum wage, drinks and eats too much. He and his GF, late 60s, live with a mutual friend. They're discussing adopting a child. My mother and father divorced 26 years ago. It was a toxic marriage, and probably for the best that they part ways. Since then, she has been remarried and is happy with her new husband. We all get along and my parents get along for the sake of visits and being around grandkids. To this day, my father wants to get back together with my mother. I don't blame him there if he still loves her. But the denial part is, he thinks he did nothing wrong in the marriage. He is under the impression that he was the perfect husband, and he is doing her a favor by taking her back if she did come back. The reality is, he did not treat her well. She left and is now with someone who makes her happy. But he keeps complaining that normal guys won't respond to him on dating apps, and keeps getting hit on by creepy old dudes. You're nearly 60, and those are age-appropriate matches. Nurse who thought the lump in her breast was nothing important, and the open sore appearing was also nothing important, and once it started draining, thought it was nothing important despite dressing it daily. Was confronted by coworkers after the smell became so rank, it lingered where she went. Stage 4 cancer with mets to bones and brain, died soon after. She was the manager of the oncology unit. Hilaria Baldwin's commitment to her fake Spanish accent, even after she was outed as having been born and raised in Boston with zero Spanish heritage. Friend is an alcoholic and does cocaine nearly every day, binge drinking and doing coke till 7 a.m., gets winded standing up for too long, but he's fine and not going to die because he is skinny and got his liver enzyme checked and it was in the regular. My loving, yet abusive and alcoholic father telling me that he has no problems to fix, and that whatever trauma I think happened in my childhood is a product of my sick and twisted mind, because he was nothing but good to me. Friend diagnosed with diabetes 10 years ago has needle phobia, so afraid of pricking his fingers to monitor his blood sugar so doesn't, and just eats healthy. Due to blood sugar fluctuations, gradually goes blind and kidney fails, 3.5 years on dialysis, then finally gets a kidney transplant. Home again with new kidney, is still afraid of pricking his fingers, and decides he will manage his diabetes by eating healthy, just like he did for the past 10 years. My brother is married for the 4th time. My mother blames all his ex-wives. I keep pointing out her son is the common link to all the divorces. Someone who has severe hearing loss but insists the reason he has to say what all the time is because everyone mumbles. My dismissive avoidant mom was a master of denial. The worst was when she got an abscess in her pelvic area. She was in 10-10 pain, couldn't sit up, was literally white-knuckling a body pillow while laying on the couch unable to move for a week. And when I, age 10, would suggest she go to a doctor, it was all, "Oh no, I'm totally fine. I don't need to see a doctor." This woman literally scheduled an appointment with a specialist and waited the 10-ish days for the appointment, instead of going to urgent care. She drove herself there in 10-10 pain. The doctor took one look at her and told her to put on a gown and meet her downstairs for immediate surgery. They drained so much yuck from her, and she had to have the gauze packing to heal the crater left behind, etc. It's a miracle she didn't get sepsis. Bonus story. She suddenly became allergic to ibuprofen in her 40s and turned beet red after taking some. Instead of going to the doctor, she went to her hair appointment like normal. Hairdresser refused to cut her hair and made her to go to the doctor. My mom just went home instead and laid on the couch huffing and puffing until the reaction went away. She told me this story like it was a totally sane and normal thing to do. I am a teacher. I have so many parents in denial about their children's grades or behavior. I once had a kid headbutt me and break my nose because he couldn't go to recess right then and there, but he's an angel at home, where he's only ever playing on a tablet. I also have one parent in particular who has 4 children, and all of them have behavior problems, to the point of multiple suspensions or being made to move schools or teachers. And I have to wonder, after 4 children with issues, is it not possible you might be part of the problem? Close friend with an opiate addiction and her husband who thought she needed morphine infusions for a variety of magically appearing painful ailments. My sister wears flannel shirts and has really short hair and drives a Subaru and wears a battle axe necklace and has a pile of Sports Illustrated swimsuit editions and a lesbian pride flag in her room, and my mom still hasn't figured out she's gay. That'd be my father. My mother was manic depressive, as it was called back then. She had several major breakdowns during my childhood. Every time, he'd act like nothing was wrong. She'd be screaming and throwing things, and he'd just try to placate her. It never worked. A couple times, I pointed out that she needed to be committed. He always responded that a person couldn't be committed unless they're a danger to themselves or others. True, but she obviously was. I was terrified of her. Even apart from the breakdowns, she threw rage attacks at the drop of a hat. Long story short, in my 20s I found out that A, they'd had 2 kids before me, and B, she'd drowned them in a bathtub during a psychotic episode. What I never found out was how she got released or why she was able to conceive me less than a year later. A friend was with me when I found out about B. He told me later that he'd always thought I was exaggerating when I said I'd feared for my life as a kid. I couldn't blame him, it does sound outlandish. After that, it was even more baffling that my father thought we were safe living with her. I know a guy who tested positive for HIV about 11 years ago. He pretended it didn't happen and did nothing about it. Today, he is dying of AIDS. He's not even 40. So sad. My mom's logic. It's not incest since you both were adopted. My brother is 6.5 years older than me and sexually molested me from the time I was 6 and until I was about 10. Yes, we are both from an orphanage, and we're adopted 6.5 years apart. While factually it is true it wasn't incest, the power dynamics absolutely were wrong. Had a friend who never held a job, their parents paid for their cars. For 6 years of college, plus an apartment in a very expensive city. For 3 of those years, they also built an artist studio for them. They were convinced that their family wasn't wealthy. All the nonprofits that I've worked for that are supposed to help low-income people, and most of the people working there are also low-income people. Me, thinking I'll get in better shape and lose some weight while doing literally nothing to make it happen. My elderly friend, who has fallen 4 times already, breaking 2 ribs once, a wrist once, and bruised up the other times. He still refuses to use a cane out of some male pride thing. He can't understand that we all age. And if he keeps falling, he will end up with a broken hip and bedridden and miserable.